Thanks for joining me tonight on the front page. We've got Caleb Bond in our Adelaide studio, and of course Matt Cunningham, our Northern Australia Bureau Chief, joining us from Darwin. Let's go straight to the Adelaide Advertiser now. I want the recognition this story deserves, guys, and we've got a package from Prime Minister Scott Morrison shortly. Honour for courageous campaigner, a grieving Adelaide mum fighting against a growing war zone of veteran suicides on home soil, has been recognised for her inspirational tenacity. Julianne Finney is among 6 trailblazing South Australian women celebrated at the inaugural Women of the Year Awards held by the Advertiser and Sunday Mail last night. Now, of course, Julianne Finney was the one who opened up to our own Paul Murray in a recent show, and we've had the Telegraph and, of course, Sky News really championing this particular issue. And Prime Minister Scott Morrison has today flagged further action to prevent veteran suicides, declaring there must be change. It comes after Labor joined growing calls for the government to back a royal commission into veterans taking their own lives.
Anthony Albanese has declared the issue of veteran suicides a crisis.
One death is one too many, and we need to act.
With more than 400 current and former military personnel taking their own lives since 2001, the Labor leader has joined growing calls for a royal commission into the issue to prevent more deaths.
We're not doing enough in this area, and that's why the call for a royal commission is reasonable.
Labor wants the terms of reference to include how soldiers transition from service to civilian life and how they're cared for after that. Julianne Finney's veteran son took his own life in February. Since then, she's been leading the charge for a royal commission and gathered more than 267,000 signatures in support.
She said today that a royal commission for her is an act of love, compassion and gratitude for her son. And that's the way that these people feel.
According to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, the rate of suicide in male veterans was 18% higher than those who haven't served.
For too long, people have felt like they haven't got a voice, and we need to make sure that those transition supports are there.
Labor's move puts pressure on the Morrison government to back a bipartisan effort. The Prime Minister has previously said he's actively considering a royal commission.
Now, I have remained open to this question, and I remain open to this question.
Scott Morrison has flagged further action to address veteran suicide in the new year.
There must be change, and that's what I'm committed to and my government.
A coalition spokesman would not be drawn on whether that change would include a royal commission. Danica Di Giorgio, Sky News.
Boys, let's go straight to the front of the telly now. The headline there is Two-Faced Minister. State governments are lining up to support calls for a royal commission into the shocking rate of military suicide, while the federal minister in charge of veteran care has been accused of undermining the campaign to secure one. Veterans Affairs Minister Darren Chester was accused in a fiery interview with 2GB radio host Ben Fordham of being privately critical of the Daily Telegraph's Save Our Heroes campaign. Now, I must admit, I was on my way to a job this afternoon, guys, and I did hear most of that interview. It was a Ben Fordham carve-up. He skewered Chester. Chester had no idea. Fordham put it to Chester that this Royal Commission is absolutely necessary and inevitable, and Chester still sort of backtracked and wouldn't commit to anything. So, Matt Cunningham, a terrific campaign by the Telegraph, a terrific campaign by Paul Murray and Sky News. It must happen. This is a crisis in Australia, the amount of veterans who are killing themselves.
Well, it's absolutely shocking, Gleeso, when you look at those numbers. And, you know, the number of veterans who've actually taken their own lives once they've returned from service is about 10 times the amount who actually have died fighting for our country overseas in the past 2 decades. They're absolutely damning, some of those statistics. You know, I think at times we rush too quickly to royal commissions in this country. I think we probably had some that weren't necessary, but in this case, I think this is absolutely an issue that is worthy of a Royal Commission. I think it's good to see Labor jump on board. You see Luke Gosling there, the Solomon MP from up here in Darwin. He's been big on this issue for a long time. He's really been pushing hard on this, and you saw Anthony Albanese backing it in today. The Prime Minister obviously is keeping it open. I think really he needs to bite the bullet now and do it. As for Darren Chester, well, you know, he needs to work out what's going on in his office, because you know, this idea that they were messaging people and saying that the campaign had actually made things worse is pretty disgraceful, and they need to clean that up pretty quickly, I would have thought.
Caleb?
I'd like to see some justification for how this campaign has made anything worse, and it's pretty poor form from Chester, given the Prime Minister has been reasonably supportive of the campaign publicly. It is, as Matt says, I mean, we do sometimes rush to Royal Commissions, but this is one that is absolutely necessary because we send these people out to fight for us, to fight for our values and to defend us, and they're ultimately doing stuff that most of us are too weak to do. They're far braver than me. I suspect they're far braver than you two. I mean, I don't know that any of us would like to go out and face the stuff that they face, and we are eternally grateful for the fact that they go out and do it. But if they come back and they do not have the support they need, then there is something seriously wrong. They should have every piece of support possible at their disposal, and the rate of suicide amongst our veterans is terrible, both male and female. I mean, for women it's about double the average rate, for men it's higher. We really need to do something about it, and if a Royal Commission gets that going, then so be it. Let's get on with it.
Now, 24-hour crisis support is available for veterans or their families by calling Open Arms on 1800 011 046, or you can call Lifeline on 131114.